I'm a man who believed that I died 20 years ago, and I live like a man who is dead already. I have no fear whatsoever of anybody or anything.
Gary Webb. I am an investigative journalist, and in 1996 I wrote a series of stories entitled Dark Alliance, which was about CIA involvement in drug trafficking.
I knew a man who once said death smiles at us all. All a man can do is smile back.
We've both been skull and bone, the secret society.
It's so secret we can't talk about it.
What does that mean for America? The conspiracy theorists are going to go on.
I'm sure they are. I don't know. I haven't seen the rest.
Number 322.
I have duty to report this afternoon that my friend and colleague, Tim Russell, collapsed and died early this afternoon.
I may die in this cell tonight or in the arena tomorrow. I am a slave. What possible difference can I make?
And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know.
Welcome back, Already Deadheads, to another Already Dead, your favorite weekly conspiracy parapolitical call-in show. We look forward to talking to you guys. We have plenty to talk about today. We've got Candace death squads. We finally gotten to the tippy tops of the Epstein Rothschild connections. These were things in murmured corners in times past. Now this is just common parlance. We've got Preggers, Erika, Kirks. We've got the final death nail, it seems, in the pipe bomb story. Boomers and feds combined to take down the Blaze. All that and more. And we are with, as always, our illustrious, handsome co-host Austin Picard, and we got Jacob on the ones and twos, whatever the hell that means. Although I don't think we do the ones and twos. I think that's when you change frames, but it sounds cool, so I'm saying it. But Austin, pleasure to be with you. You said you're a little under the weather today. It seems to be going around this time of year, so but it's okay. We're all already dead here, so we'll keep trudging through.
Man, I was hoping you picked up on that Already Deadheads hashtag that I had.
Oh,
put
did you? I just did that on the fly.
Yeah, I did. I thought it was perfect, just as far as obviously the Grateful Dead, and then kind of combining those two ideas. Especially just understanding the MK Ultra connection to that of the psychological operation that was the Grateful Dead in a major way, which is kind of hilarious.
Speaking of MK Ultra, it's making me think that maybe now that like I didn't. I think maybe I saw it and I just subconsciously kind of like absorbed it because like it was literally on the fly. I thought it was like a fly thing, but then for some reason Deadheads came to my mind and I was like, well, that's art. That's like what the whatever. I can't think of their name right now. The whatever Dead, the Grateful Dead. And so I was like, well, that's Grateful Dead. And I was like, but it's like Already Dead. And then in my head, I was like mulling over. I was like, does that sound nice? Like, does it roll off the tongue? And then I was kind of like, because it's an extra word, you know. But the more I think, I'm like, I don't know. I kind of like it. Already Deadheads, like, so it works out pretty well. I know it's a little bit more lengthy, but it works. I mean, it's already got the branding there. You just add the little Already Dead in front of it. I don't know. I think I like it. I think that's the one. Yeah.
Pair that with Schizo Bros and we're off and running, honestly.
Yeah.
But
then we got some dumpers too.
yeah, no doubt. But I will say it feels like the two-party delusion is alive and well, right? And in many ways that was fairly obvious and in our faces overtly in terms of Mamdani and Trump's just uniting in the White House, right? Which is just the funniest thing.
I was giggling about this giggling about that on the morning show today because I didn't realize it, but I'm sure you saw they had this whole performative vote on like condemning socialism and the left and right kind of I didn't realize that was like literally the day of when Mamdani, because I was literally watching the coverage and you see in the bottom right hand corner, it's like, oh, today at 3 p.m. Mamdani and Trump meet, and you're like, oh my god, they're literally doing this whole big performance. And like, did you see Jack Posobiec literally do the like slinking into the like bushes thing? He literally like it's moved away from the crowd. It just kind of like disappeared as he's sucking off Mamdani and talking about how they have similar beliefs or whatever the fuck he said. It's just the perfect like complete just like neutering, because they've had this like tired James Lindsay lazy fucking like anti-communism dirt, and then like, but they can't even have that like weak tired trope. It just falls away. It's so fucking thin. It's just so hilarious. And then he's just fucking sucking off the socialist, talking about how great he is. He stands for absolutely nothing. It's just glorious. And they try to have the tiniest shred of dignity and have something to stand for, and he just completely pisses all in their mouth.
It was really, honestly, it was perfect in every way, in my opinion, as far as just, pulling back the veil. Occasionally we receive a perfect window into how the political paradigm truly works and how they coexist in this way. But I will say that, there's absolutely no difference in party. And I'm glad that people at least picked up on that aspect of things. And I even saw individuals who are very much, captivated by leftist ideology, kind of falling into that category. And it really, I don't know, occasionally I like to see, some sort of positive outcome in terms of interpreting the sort of propagandistic nature of the state in a way, right? And how corrupt and compromised they all truly are. And I will say there was a report off of the back of the meeting between Mamdani and Trump, where ICE officials effectively confirmed that they will essentially step up operations within New York City under the mayor-elect, Zohran, whatever his name, Mamdani, obviously. And so the point is that what actually changed effectively, please tell me,
he kept his little connected police commissioner. So that's 100%, which that was the key thing that anyone who knows the dynamics of political puppetry dynamics of New York particularly, and how that affects the rest of the world. I mean, this is the granddaughter of, a mega group person who's they're like literally a key part of like of doing the surveillance, technocratic nightmare shit over in Gaza that they're doing right now. And it's kind of a back and forth kind of feeding into each other, but what goes on there goes in New York, and they kind of feel one out in each playground and apply it to the other.
Right. Did you see the interesting report that seemed to have been kind of discredited already in terms of the response from the White House, and just as far as the White House press representation seemed to have cast doubt on this report, but it was effectively claiming that Trump was considering removing Kash Patel as FBI director within the coming months, and then it was instantly kind of shot down by members of the White House press.
Real quick, by the way, that's not the first time that's been floated out by some major. There was one, because I mean these are the sort of things I bookmark for the morning show, and sometimes it just doesn't materialize. So I haven't even done a segment on that. But it just kind of, because I think I actually deleted the old bookmark because I was just kind of like, whatever. It was just one little blip. But this isn't the first time a major, and while I'm not a fan of the establishment media, but like when it comes to journalism, these guys can get sued, and they're going to have to go to discovery. Right. So I mean, they can say fake news, but if they're not suing, I mean, it's a little bit. It goes both ways. I'm sure puppetry does occur, but I mean, the very fact that we're seeing these. And I think just politically speaking, I mean, that's just they're floundering. I mean, like they just lost MTG, which likely they're probably going to completely lose the majority, just like completely blow it here in the next election. So I don't know. It's just quite the political game. So it's just a lot of wild shit going on.
Oh, no doubt. But I thought the timing of the Mamdani meeting in the White House there was just perfect, as far as we had just referenced the fact that Alex Soros was a major funder of his political campaign, contributing, I believe, up to $37 million to the various organizations that were funding his rise to power in New York. So, it just goes to show, right? You scratch a little bit below the surface and you see the nature of the true power cabal of pulling the strings and utilizing these political puppets, and the pageantry reigns supreme, right? And so at the very least, I saw a meme of Mamdani and Trump both wearing that maroon what's it called, turtleneck, and they had like a black blazer on, and it was the exact same outfit basically, and it was that with a parallel of Michael Scott with the goatee that Ryan had in The Office. He's trying to directly imitate his outward appearance. I just thought it was hilarious. But at the same time, I just think that, did you actually, I intend to obviously go and listen to Dana's part 2 on her new episode that she's dropping, right? This new series, kind of contending with that of the influencer industrial complex in many ways, it seems. And
not to take any views away from her, but I'm literally having her come on my show tomorrow night, and we're going to go deep into.
Damn it, dude! I was going to ask her. You son of a bitch!
I beat you to it, bitch.
Yeah, you bastard. But anyway, so but still, I just thought
you can still swoop me. I paywall my shit for like a week to 2 weeks, so you can still swoop me.
I'll give it time. I'll make sure yours drops first, but I definitely want to have that conversation at some point, just because it's something that I've been, kind of, I mean, obviously I've been frustrated with this sort of environment that we exist in at this moment, and how much it feels like it's this manufactured psychological operation mind war project that's very much just achieving this sort of propagandistic, I believe, outcome that is very much by design in terms of the mind manipulators at play here. And a great example of that was the fact that just mentioning from PSYOP to mind war, the psychology of victory, which I've been discussing quite often just in terms of Michael Aquino, obviously. But I had noticed that clearly Dana tweeted recently, a couple days ago, about basically a connection between the co-author of that book, Paul Vallely, right? I believe is his name, and he's a very interesting figure in his own right. But apparently, according to her, this individual Paul Vallely is an advisory council member of Turning Point USA. So very strange that one of the key mind war operatives that essentially kind of laid out the playbook for how they would implement this modern gladio strategy of tension is effectively connected in with this modern influencer industrial complex and what looks to be like prominent financing and funding from these very organizations that lead back to these beacons of social engineering and culture creation. And that alone is just, it should be eye-opening for everyone who's kind of taking things at face value and still engaging in this very strategic, as I've described before, as we witness the death of the mainstream media, we see this implementation of this strategy in an attempt to re-corral these fleeing minds that, right, are very much kind of, I think, more than ever, they have this large appetite for genuine authenticity. And so, but the unfortunate aspect of this is they're so well conditioned into not being able to quite think through utilizing critical thinking skills to actually effectively interpret these prominent personalities who are kind of drenched in these sophisticated tactics and methods of mind manipulation. So I don't know.
By the way, I'm not going to move on past that because you just kind of perfectly laid out in a whole lot of words there, but perfectly laid out the exact caveat of what we need to go into next. I think that perfectly you laid out exactly describing the current pipe bomb story. I've been kind of on the morning dump giving updates, but here's the latest update. Just Payne right here. Just look at this face right here, Payne. Here's Kyle Seraphin, and I'll explain more. This is Julie Kelly. That's Ken Silva quote tweeted with that image of Julie Kelly saying, "Breaking: CBS News report debunking Blaze bomber report and disclosing new details about its origins." A federal security officer linked to a thwarted Jan 6 pipe bomb attack cleared her name by providing an alibi. Video of her playing with her puppies at the time the devices were placed, sources told CBS News. The FBI has now ruled her out as a suspect in the 2021 plot, according to 3 sources, but only after her name circulated on social platforms and a conservative news site. How an innocent woman's name came to be publicly linked to the unexploded pipe bombs is a question that has raised concerns among some senior officials in the Trump administration. CBS News is not naming the security officer or her workplace. The federal agency she protects declined to comment. And now just to kind of sum up, a lot of the things you said about kind of these sophisticated tactics, like there's levels to this. Because, this is a story that came out of the Blaze. And so you got, obviously the connections to, the Blaze, which there's varying levels of you don't know to what degree what's going on. Kyle Seraphin got his dirty dick beaters somehow in the mix here. We also have Steve Baker is a character, and Steve Baker is the one who's like essentially the journalist, quote unquote, the one who was producing all this stuff for the Blaze. But a lot of his sources were coming out of Kyle Seraphin. The gate analysis, even from Kyle Seraphin, from a slip, was from a government contractor. So like they're like, because it was like he was like, well, it wasn't government. And you're like, well, and then Alex Jones literally was like, well, no, it's the same thing as government. He's like, yeah. And so like the whole gate. So anything. The point being is, and like while it is like, and you see when someone like me, I could almost see even as much as our schizo community is like that. Like I'm sure there's somebody out there that's probably like Jose's being a fed, fucking naysaying this, and you're like, no, because if you actually be like, look at this journalism, see like that, like how does it seem credible? Does it seem like a journalism going like way in front of themselves? Because what's going to happen when this falls apart? It's almost as if it was created to fall apart. Yeah, and then I also didn't even mention. Then you have Massey. So there's like varying levels of like dubious characters, which I think I'm a little bit more trusting of a Massey, but like there's this whole spectrum from like Massey all the way up into a Kyle Seraphin of like all of varying levels of glow. I don't know. You can never tell if it's glow, if it's their boomerism, if it's their slop vendorism. It could be any combination of all of these things. But at the end of the day, you end up with a fucked soup that you don't really know how to make sense of. And right. At the end of the day, you pushed out some bullshit, and now anyone who leaned into this too much is now kind of has a little bit of pie in their face.
Damage their credibility at the very least, right? And beyond that, it's almost as if, like, what are your thoughts in considering the notion that some of this could be laying the groundwork for future justification to crack down on some legal action as far as like legitimately pursuing litigation in terms of rights, cracking down on the press in some real way, right? That effectively would become a precedent-setting operation to some extent, and even potentially affect us or influencers or whatever you want to call us. I don't like to refer to myself as that. I'm just independent researcher. Is kind of what I say. But
it could be even while they're being somewhat legit with the way the law is written, because you look at something like this. I guess this is where we get a little bit of theory world. I'm actually not technically a fan of things like defamation. I don't think like you technically own your reputation. So I don't think while it is incredibly shitty, and I think you actually, when someone does something like this, they should be dragged and they should be destroyed essentially for attempting to do something like that. But I totally think the Blaze is probably going to get sued to oblivion. And that's going to be, who knows? This could just be a controlled demolition. Let's be real, the Blaze was no longer, or what's his face, Beck, was not, like, his message is not getting through. So, like, it's almost a controlled demolition, you could surmise, and kind of going on the way out, creating a chilling effect. And essentially, what seemingly is right, because, I think they're likely going to be shown to be completely bullshit. Completely horseshit by the end of it. But as a result, now this media entity gets sued to oblivion, and now people who do such reporting, and it'll probably get characterized in some ways as attacking the press, despite the fact it's them doing very shoddy journalism. I can see having a chilling effect while even still abiding within the current legal framework. It doesn't even have to reinvent the wheel whatsoever. they can just sue them and kind of lean into it in the right ways, utilizing the media, and it'll create a chilling effect. It'll also kind of create a looking down your glasses type thing at like conspiracy theorist or whatever. So yeah, I think you might be very much onto something there. By the way, the phone lines are open. Call us at 1-833-722-DEAD. And if you can't count in letters, then that is 3323. So 1-833-722-3323. Call in if you got any stories, any topics you want to talk about, whatever. Call him. But yeah, wild stuff. I mean, I don't know. I mean, obviously I think Kyle glows, but I'm open to Baker just being a boomer and just being that dumb. But
it's possible.
Yeah.
I was talking with with Ben from End of the World News last night, and basically we just discussed this for a brief moment as far as the influencer industrial complex, and we were briefly touching on Thomas Massey, and he's done a little bit more of a deep dive into the DeMolay and things of that nature, and these strange connections that kind of at least you can tie back to Thomas Massey's sort of inherent rise to some sort of prominence. But at the same time, it's interesting because I didn't realize that the DeMolay was somehow rooted back into the Knights Templar, and that in itself is a cause for concern. So who knows?
It's Masonry. I think Masonry does, and like pretty much, to be fair, kind of all the secret societies really do.
Yeah,
but
basically, sure. But I still find it interesting because clearly,
at least they claim to.
Yeah, but obviously, as much as we've covered the Templars and the kind of Templar resurgence and the Neo-Templar movement and these various organizations that cropped up, after this major turning point in Templar history, and it's very interesting to say the least that there are still these kind of red flags that you can point to at all times in terms of even the most at face value seemingly reliable personalities in politics. And so I did find it interesting that, as you mentioned, it seemed like he was attempting to distance himself in a way from the pipe bomb story, but sort of doubled down, in my opinion. But who knows? I don't know. What was your interpretation of that?
By the way, my bad. I don't know if maybe I think we talked about that before. Just I guess it's more for the audience. You're saying like, oh, you talked about this before, but with Massey, because we were talking before the show about like, and it was. I was when I first saw. By the way, I guess I'm kind of assuming you guys know a lot of things. Anyways, I'll back up. Massey today shared. I think it seems like I watched most of it, and it seems like he was interviewed by Steve Baker. It was on Free the People, which I'm not entirely sure. I thought that was some like other I thought that was Matt Kibbe's thing, but whatever. I don't know. So just kind of generic libertarian reason-ish kind of vibe. But I guess Steve Baker was one. I didn't really know exactly what it was at first, but from the outside looking in, not knowing exactly, it kind of looks like, and Massey had posted about this before with the pipe bombing, he'd been bringing into attention to all this. It looked like, once again, kind of, to some degree, at least running parallel with Steve Baker. And now I'm not anyone to be like guilt by association, but it is like, obviously, if you're leaning heavily into it, it gives a perception. But I did watch this interview. I kind of got the vibe. There wasn't anything specifically he said, but I did get the vibe that he wasn't trying to lean too much into the Baker's reporting, and it was almost more of like I'm just kind of want to bring interest, and I'm kind of just getting back into this, and kind of very much hedging a lot of these things, caveating, and then also kind of very much almost being like, yeah, I just I'm kind of looking at almost as if he's looking to their fellow travelers of sorts. Not really, I guess, putting too much. I don't think he really leaned. It almost seemed like I got the impression that Baker didn't want to lean into it. So I don't know if maybe they had a conversation or something or what. Because I mean, for all I know, it could have been an awkward situation where, like, when all this stuff before all this, the retractions and all the this stuff came out that started. He could have already had this thing booked with Massey, and Massey could have been someone from the outside looking in. That was like, in most people, this is the case because they don't really look into the minutia of this, fairly enough. They're like, oh my God, this is mind blowing. Oh, they're naming people. This is crazy because anytime a journalist does that, it's like you have them dead to rights typically. and they fucking didn't. So like, I can totally see why people only casually paying attention got all excited. And I think perhaps Massey got into that, and it just felt like, I don't know, it felt like a slightly different vibe from the posts and stuff before to then the vibe I got when I actually watched the interview, which made me feel a little bit better. So maybe he was just doing the courtesy of like, well, I agreed to this already, and I'm not going to drag you on here. So like,
oh man,
I don't know. I mean, that's me being fair. Who knows? Maybe this was all some put on by them.
Right.
I don't know. He just knows better to distance himself now under the current, under the current situation. But even then, he never said anything like overtly or specifically distancing himself. That's just the impression I got, because I watched it to be like, man, I hope he really isn't like leaning into this and being like, oh, you're stellar reporting or this or that, and you're like, right. I didn't really feel any of that, like particularly. So.
Yeah, I definitely, I didn't watch the whole thing, so I was kind of eager to hear your opinion, because from the outside looking in as well, just seeing a clip or two, right? You can't quite get the full context of how the discussion kind of at least went, and so from the outside looking in, it seemed as if he was doubling down on the story to some extent, right?
Yeah, that's how I felt too.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, before we because speaking of pipe bombs, right, we might as well at this point discuss this brief story that I discovered in terms of these nicknamed pipe bombs in Columbine. But before we transition, I thought it was also interesting that so Brad texted me last night, right? He says, dude, you can get a signed copy of Candace's book for just under $200. What a deal. and then he says, I can get a Freddie Freeman signed World Series champion baseball for less than a signed copy of Candace's book. And I responded, wow, the Candace effect is real. How dare you question the value of this black intellectual warrior for truth? And then I had to mention my favorite conspiracy theory I saw go viral over the weekend, which it seemingly has been debunked, right? But it's in regard to Erika Kirk, right?
Oh no, girl, you didn't.
Exactly. But I was obviously selfishly, I was hoping it were true to some extent, which is terrible. But at the same time, I saw this report that Erika Kirk prayed. Obviously, this part is true. She prayed she was pregnant the day that Charlie died, and apparently, the report that was false was that she had recently announced that she's 9 weeks pregnant, but Charlie had died 11 weeks ago, right? And so that in itself, just keep that in your mind if there's some strange announcement in the near future. But also,
now to be fair, to back up, to be fair, I think I don't really know. I mean, I'm pretty sure, if I recall correctly, the way that women date their pregnancies can be off by like a week or two or something, depending on their cycles. So like they'll say 9 or 10 or whatever weeks, but in reality, you don't necessarily know exactly when it got fertilized. Although now that I think about it, you only go through a period for a few days, so actually it would only be a difference of probably really a few days. So I don't fucking know. I'm going back on that now.
Well,
there's a slight variation, but not that much. Now I think about it. Probably not 2 weeks, but
right.
Someone with an ovary chime in the chat.
Definitely, please. But
just one ovary. You don't need both of them.
Still, this obviously this caught my eye for a brief moment. So I looked into it. I looked it up real quick, and every single thing you can find just fully debunks this claim that she has come out announcing she's pregnant. So allegedly, it's not true. But the viral conspiracy was claiming that J.D. Vance is the illegitimate father, complete with the prediction that JD will leave his current wife for Erika during his 2028 presidential bid. I just thought, what a conspiracy, man. And really in every way, I appreciate conspiracies like that.
Have you looked at the side-by-side photos of Vance and Aquino?
Yeah, I actually saw that overlay. That was so funny.
And that when you start adding in some of the schizo... Well, shit, the fucking Mind War connections. I didn't even think about that. The TPUSA. Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. Man, it really is just a simulation of elites come running everything.
It feels like it, buddy. It definitely feels like it. But yeah, there was one other thing as far as that pipe bomb connection. I felt like I should briefly mention because it is fascinating, and it won't take long because they only nicknamed a few pipe bombs as far as Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold during Columbine, and his website, Eric Harris's website, it obviously had instructions on how to make pipe bombs and Molotovs and the extensive use of shrapnel as well. And that was when Eric Harris's father, Wayne, had discovered a pipe bomb in his room, which I guess this was leading up to the shooting. And instead of disciplining him, that was when he took him up into the mountains and they just detonated the pipe bomb. So very strange, especially considering his military background. But so Harris's journal officially logged the creation of 25 pipe bombs. Klebold allegedly even scared his co-workers by once bringing a pipe bomb into work, and they would give various nicknames to these pipe bombs. After the massacre, 2 pipe bombs had been left in Klebold's bedroom. One was named Vengeance and another Atlanta. And this was presumably referring to the Olympic Park bombing that happened in 96, I believe. I looked into the Olympic Park bombing, and I am definitely going to have to dig a little deeper into exactly, the details of who this perpetrator was, because at face value, it's another one of those stories, right? And it just seems a little too convenient in terms of some of the details. And so, to me, right, where there's smoke, there's fire in most of these cases. And so the Centennial Park bombing was July 27th, 96, during the Summer Olympics in Atlanta, Georgia, when a pipe bomb exploded, killing 2 people and injuring over 100 other people. And the attack was carried out by Eric Robert Rudolph, who was motivated allegedly by anti-government and anti-abortion beliefs. And so this was the alleged, sort of ideological motive behind the event itself. Still interesting. And so they had, I believe, it was 8 propane tanks, all converted into bombs as well. But the point being that these nicknames didn't stop with Vengeance or Atlanta. And there was an additional connection that I actually didn't put into the episode. And that had to do with Eric Harris and his nickname pipe bomb, known as the Phoenix Project. And that, considering the tie-ins to the Mind War and the MK Ultra operatives who clearly were among the Phoenix program in terms of very much implementing many of these sophisticated methods, it goes without saying that this in itself is
wasn't one of
too
those
much.
One of their dads like some like semi-glowy, well, I say semi-glowy pilot. I remember I vaguely recall your recollection I vaguely recall your breakdown of the pilot, and I think did get a little bit kind of glowy, but some of his career did sound kind of like a pretty generic, like heavy pilot, because he actually, funny enough, I think he flew the 135s, which is the jet that I used to maintain. And so, like, I mean, whatever. People fly those, and they're just kind of like a shitty commercial jet. They refuel their jets. It's not. I mean, sure, they probably do some, special forces missions sometimes, but even then, the pilots probably don't even really know what the mission is because they're just refueling a fighter jet that does some other thing. But point being is like so. But anyways, I guess just looking really for the military connection. I was kind of. So he did have, there was military connection there, and he's got these Phoenix Project delusions. So obviously that's obviously the connection you try to drive at whenever you see something Phoenix. You're like, oh shit,
No. Yeah, and I think it's very interesting that allegedly throughout the course of his military training, he was once trained within the concept of psychological operations. And so that alone means he at least was steeped in some of those sophisticated methods. And beyond that, he clearly began to run the organization known as Flight Safety Services Corporation, which that in itself was really the most interesting tie-in to some of the 9/11 hijackers allegedly being trained by the flight simulation software program that was being obviously offered by Flight Safety Services Corporation, and you had that strange connection to the financing and the purchasing of flight safety services as well, right? Which I found to be very, very strange as far as the individuals involved with that being these usual suspects. And yeah, obviously he was a decorated Air Force officer who was kind of in charge of these, I believe, for quite a while. He was actually involved with these important projects, including the B-1 bomber. So that part was a little interesting as far as its use over Kosovo at that time, right? Which seemingly involved these clandestine covert military operations, which he would have been a part of, at least to some extent, if he was operating in this project. And so that in itself was interesting, as well as Susan Klebold claiming there were documents on brainwashing techniques that had been found in Eric Harris's home, which suggested that obviously these were military documents that were provided to Wayne Harris throughout the course of his psychological warfare training at one of the military bases he was stationed at before ever going to Plattsburgh, where the alleged mind control behavioral modification experimentation took place on a 10-year-old Eric Harris. So that alone, I mean, it's very strange, and it looks as if there's at least some sort of connection to his military intelligence background with some of these classified mission projects. And so that alone, beyond the hijacker connection, I felt like is worthwhile in mentioning, obviously. But yeah, anyway,
one last thing. I feel like I know you're not feeling a little good today, so I feel like we probably would try to go to intermission a little bit earlier. But I think to kind of, I just thought about it. I was kind of looking over some of the bullet points that we thought we might want to go touch on, and I just realized how perfectly this kind of ties into this other thing. I talked about today in the morning show a little bit of kind of the Rothschild connection that appeared, which we've known about this before. There were allusions to it. I believe, I believe Dersh had actually said that that's how he was introduced to Epstein. I guess he recently said some more about this that you have prepared, so maybe we'll bring that up. But I think I was just thinking about that, and with some of the revelations of kind of the real closeness. I mean, we have quotes from the Rothschild. Was it Ariane or something? Day Rothschild or something? Anyways. One of the Rothschilds, literally, there's quotes from the emails, that were released from a back and forth, where she's saying that essentially, I mean, I'm paraphrasing a little bit here, but that Ehud Barak, the former prime minister of Israel, she needs to develop a relationship with her if he really wants to make serious money, and I think alluding to something to do with like his Israeli campaign or something like that. And so you're like, this is the sort of stuff going on, these sort of connections with the Rothschild, I think it really reveals the, I mean, there's a lot of people, like I know Simon Dovey, always talks about him being a Rothschild agent. That's what he says. And I think there's perhaps truth to this. It's almost like he lords a little bit above it. And now we're talking about it's kind of apparent what we're driving at a little bit, the 9/11 connections with the simulations and simulators and stuff, and the Columbine. It seems all sort of crazy, but once you sort of loop this all together, you think of Dersh, you think of Rothschild, you think of these projects. You kind of tied on. You think about the simulators, the people that the Luck Howard, or not actually, was it Lutnick? It wasn't Lutnick that who's the Lucky Larry Silverstein or whatever.
Oh, Silverstein, yeah.
Yeah. So then you have these people that knew, and then there's other elites too that have been heavily, if not borderline, seemingly new. There's a lot of elites, tippy top elites that did some wild stuff right around that time. So I just something about that nexus of connections is almost like, I don't know, it's like almost like we discovered the Ouroboros, like the self-eating snake, almost a little bit, like kind of.
Absolutely.
That's what it feels like to me,
Truly.
But I don't know if you want to expand a little bit of that Rothschild thing, because I know it's something you want to talk about, but I do feel like that kind of almost in a weird way completes the loop of all the different stuff going on here. For those who are schizo enough to pick up what I'm setting down.
No doubt. And I also think it's interesting, obviously, that those white supremacist Aryan neo-Nazi organizations that were very much, had a heavy hidden footprint there in the Littleton area, specifically the headquarters in Sedalia, Colorado, 14 miles from Columbine. And what were the internal memorandums suggesting by the investigators who documented the Star Chamber and the White Eagle Underground and the Brotherhood of the White Temple? It was that they were effectively plotting an attack on New York City, which is just fascinating that they were willing to use not only chemical warfare, but various other strategies, including targeted assassinations and bombings of some kind, which would obviously involve some sort of, if you're thinking ahead clearly, just them suggesting this viable plot to attack New York City in 1998 in this internal memorandum should be eye-opening enough for what effectively takes place in September 11th, clearly. But at the same time, the Rothschild connection that you mentioned is fascinating, and I think we discussed it at least twice on the show prior to this in the past, just as far as that story that Dershowitz told about being introduced by Len Forrester to Rothschild to Jeffrey Epstein, and that was essentially how Dershowitz became involved as Epstein's legal representative, right? And so that in itself is cause for concern, because this is clearly that very network that Simon Dovey refers to so very often, as far as the eye of the chicken hawk. We were in the eye of that very storm, that unprecedented hurricane that essentially the depths of depravity and the sinister nature of what they're attempting to achieve is, every episode we're essentially shocking ourselves once more, but yet still perfectly, open to this being plausible, due to the fact that we've witnessed these credible allegations so very often, come to fruition in terms of being completely, in a way, corroborated, right, as time goes on. And so in no way do I question the reality that this is some sort of kind of aristocratic family dynamic, that there's this very prominent aristocracy has been in power in the, as far as behind the scenes, behind that curtain, that proverbial curtain, right? Clearly pulling the machinations, in terms of the agendas playing out in this dystopian way. This is this very well systematically entrenched operation for generations. And so in no way do I view this modern political class, in the current era, as any different than that of what we've witnessed in every single other historical example, right, that has sort of set this precedent leading forward into the current environment we reside in. So anyway, the point being that Dershowitz, as always, feels the need to address this directly, and can't seem to get out of his own way, just in terms of the public presentation, that he always feels the need to kind of have his voice heard in these especially in regard to Epstein and any of these strange allegations that kind of drag him into the fold. It's interesting to me that every single time he addresses these allegations directly, he just makes it worse, right? Like, in no way does he actually convince anyone that he was not guilty of what is being said or accused, what he's being accused of, is the point I'm trying to make. But so Alan Dershowitz apparently goes on this show and says that Epstein victims are lying, and singles out Maria Farmer, accusing her specifically of anti-Semitism for saying, "All the Jewish people I met are pedophiles who run the economy." That was a quote. And he says, and are, quote, under the control of the Rothschilds. Dershowitz says, comments like that are disqualifying because they single out Jews as Epstein's clients, and he wants to make sure no one believes a word she says. I haven't done anything wrong.
Because that's why we picked the Rothschilds, because they're Jews. Nothing to do with the fact they're international money lenders. It's because, it's because I'm a Jew. Yeah, okay. Yeah, because you're totally... there's a reason we're not talking about on a Silverstein that runs the pharmacy store down the road.
Right. Exactly. But it's just absolutely insane to actually watch this moment as far as Dershowitz's presentation here and performance.
You got it here? Cool.
Yeah, I got it right here.
All right, and I have a perfect. I actually found. Funny enough. Actually, I'm not gonna introduce it too much. It'll be a perfect jumping in point after the intermission to get right back into the same thematic stuff we were talking about, but coming at it from a fresh angle. I think you'll like it. Okay. But let's play this clip and then we'll go to intermission because I'm interested to see what this old ghoul has to say. Oh, real quick, I guess to kind of prep this. I've been covering the morning show and I've been noticing this kind of my pattern recognition, and I'm sure you probably have as well. This is a name that's been floated around for a while, like this reforming of essentially the Bryn Hawley hand or whatever the fuck. They're like, hell, there was even talk after Kirk died, like how we have to remake they need all these influencers to kind of flood the field. And then we see the Barry Weiss reforming CBS, and it seems like they're trying to herald in this new, or not even new, a lot of them are old, they're having to reside old, which is kind of what I'm driving at here. Dersh is like a prime name, like top 3 that comes up over and over again as some sort of voice of reason, as if he's a sensible centrist or something, that he resides in respectability or in the land of respectability or whatever. Like, this is how they're characterizing him. Yeah. So,
yeah. Wow. Pedophile occupied government, my brother.
Yeah. But let's see.
What I know about the files is they contain a lot of material that show that some of the witnesses, some of the accusers, some of the quote survivors are liars and bigots. Let me give you an example. There's a woman named Maria Farr. She's been all over the place. CNN, she's been on MSNBC. Nobody ever questions her. Here's what she said in something that hasn't been released, something that's been suppressed. She said, I have a hard time with the Jewish people. All the Jewish people I met are pedophiles who run the economy. They're under the control of the Rothschilds. This is a woman who's a blatant anti-Semite, and she has accused only Jews. Don't you think the public has the right to know that? Don't you think when she appears on CNN, the CNN commentators should say, oh, yeah, I know you've accused Wexner and you've accused this person and that person, all of whom are Jewish. Didn't you also say that?
Dude, how out of context, right? Like, in a way, man, misrepresent.
It's not her fault she was only being raped by Jews.
Yeah, what the fuck? Oh,
all Jews essentially are pedophiles. How do you explain that? Why should we believe you if you say things like that? And there are numerous other witnesses who have real problems with their credibility. So the problem is you can't release half the files. You can't release the accusations unless you also release the information that would show that some of the accusations are false. Now we have a new thing being introduced, McCarthyism. We have some congressmen saying they're going to hold up a list the way Joseph McCarthy did. I have a list of 20 people. I'm going to give you the names, but I'm not going to tell you anything about them. And I'm going to only give you the names of the people who are accused. I'm not going to give you the names of the accusers because those are confidential. That's McCarthyism. So
wow.
You have to have everything out there. I said from day one, put everything out. No redactions, no exceptions. Everything has to come out.
So do you think that will happen? And the reason why I ask this is because in the last, I guess, week or week and a half or so, I believe Trump has instructed Bondi to open up investigations into some of the Democrats' names that were
real quick pause
on the list.
Isn't this the shitbag that fucking claimed he was like some sort of like high up advisor or high up on the board or something? He definitely, to be fair, he technically didn't do anything wrong, but he very much was comfortably sitting in this assumption people are making as if he had some sort of role on the advisory board or whatever, when in fact he was like an honorary member, which I guess is like every Tom, Dick, and Harry that has anything to do with TPUSA is.
That's the guy, buddy. You gotta make yourself relevant, right?
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous.
If they do that, does that mean those files will be redacted or held back?
They will be. For example, just 30 seconds ago, you showed a picture of Jeffrey Epstein with a very prominent scientist who was the inventor of artificial intelligence, Marvin. He's on the list. He's accused. He's dead. And there's no opportunity for him to respond. But if the woman or the women who accused him have all kinds of problems of credibility, if they've lied about other people, don't you think the public has the right to know that? And yet we're being given half of the material. We're not being given all the material. I want everything out there. I've wanted everything out there from day one. The day I was accused, I said I waive all of my rights to privacy, lawyer confidentiality, because I knew I had done nothing wrong. So I have nothing to lose by having everything come out. You know, if you're guilty, obviously you want to suppress material. But if you're a false accuser, and there are many false accusers, there are women and lawyers who have gotten rich on this thing. There are women who collected $50,000 who never met Jeffrey Epstein, whose lawyers put them up to it. And they put the money in the bank and they walk away. And even some of the women who were at the press conference who wouldn't answer questions have questionable
real quick, pause this real quick.
Credibility. So I want everything out there, nothing suppressed, period.
There you go.
I forgot what my point was. Something about how find it odd how they has it both ways. Like God, there was something in there. Never mind. I lost the thread. Whatever.
Disclosure, but also he's basically effectively claiming that essentially clearly he doesn't want full disclosure in terms of any of these allegations being made. This is just another perfect example of Dershowitz trying to run damage control in this, very much sort of clear and obvious way that he is acting in bad faith, right? His intentions are clearly, if we haven't discovered already, the individual we're dealing with here, vanguard of snuff and clearly the protector of pedophiles for generations at this point, then this would be the number one prominent personality you would point to kind of leverage into the media to try and make these outlandish allegations, right, to further discredit any of the victim accounts that are coming out, especially in regard to kind of the political partisanship involved with these allegations and what is and is not being publicly made available to people, and also receiving the spotlight in terms of the media. Right. So I don't know. Do you remember what you were going to say yet?
No, it was something that lasts like 10 seconds. And it was a pretty good point, but not that big of a deal. Maybe I'll come back to it. I guess we could probably good time to go to intermission. We'll be back here in a few minutes, and we'll be jumping right back into the thick of things. Remind you guys you can call in at 1-833-722-DEAD. We'll be picking up calls after the intermission. We'll also be taking any patrons that want to come on for video calls. We got a few of them back there. I think at least one or two of them want to come up, so they can hang out with us, shoot the shit, and field calls with us. But with that, we'll be back in a few minutes. Enjoy the intermission.
Truth generally act like they're kind of retarded. Mentally retarded people I can communicate with real good.
Beauty queen, or you'll
We're back, and I'm on the wrong side of the bed. This feels weird. There we go. All right, jumping right back into the thick of things. By the way, patrons back there, let Jacob know in the chat if you want to come on. I know I saw one of you guys talk about maybe calling in, so maybe you'll come on for a video chat instead. But I guess while you guys figure that out to kind of get the ball rolling, I figured kind of, centering around all these themes. We talked, and funny enough, Dana actually just showed up in the chat right before the intermission, and like I said, I'm actually going to have her on the show tomorrow. But I popped over to the thing kind of looking to see if there's any content to talk about on the show during the intermission, or actually right before it, and I found this, just happened to come right to the top of my feed. Here's Dana Duda responding to John Mappin's quote. We'll read John Mappin. For those who aren't aware, that's who she's been absolutely cooking for being in Epstein's Black Book. Which, hey, that doesn't necessarily mean he did anything, but, like, hey, I feel like you want to... John, we have some questions. John, we have some questions. Yeah, John, we have some questions.
John, you need to address this, man.
But this is what John's saying, and he's the one who's been absolutely just taking Candace's lady dick to the back of the throat lately. But here's what he says. Interesting question. If Candace Owens' show existed at the time of 9/11, what would be different about history today? Would the war in Afghanistan have happened? Do you see why the truth about who really killed Charlie Kirk is vital? Truth and lies have consequence. Well, on that, here's our very own Dana Duda saying, I have a better question. Why is she omitted that her father, according to his own resume, that was immediately scrubbed after my live stream, was in charge of contracts, including security during tragic loss of life at Sandy Hook? Says she demands transparency, as do you, John, and it seems like a pretty damning thing to obfuscate from public view. Gotta wonder if Daddy and Alex Jones have had chats at the dinner table over what happened that day in Newton, since, they hired the same lawyer. So,
well, what a
man, this is what the death squads are coming after her for. They're trying to clean up their operation, I guess.
Oh, God.
So what do you think, Austin? I just threw a lot at you, and
yeah, no, I mean, I believe these connections. They're without a doubt. Yeah, absolutely. But the only pushback I have is you already know how I feel about one Candace Owens, and nothing personal. I don't know this woman. It's just my kind of interpretation of her character, and it's difficult for me to not really view her as setting the table in terms of many of these narratives, and ultimately, I think, misdirecting people into false conclusions, and maybe even potentially factoring into, this is something that Brad mentioned to me on whatever this is, and I'm very much open to this idea as far as some of the more extraordinary, outlandish claims that she's potentially made surrounding Charlie Kirk could easily be some sort of future fodder for litigation, even some sort of defamation suit as well. And so he was just pointing to a few different examples of things that she said that could be sort of easily disproven at face value in a way, just by digging, directly under this false representation of the narrative itself. And once you realize that it can be so easily disproven, then it's bound to clearly draw attention in terms of a future, let's say, justification to even crack down on influencers or content creators at a certain level, and this being a precedent setting for litigation in the future as well, just as I mentioned regarding the pipe bomb story. So who knows how much of this dystopian framework is being legitimately calculated and strategically attempted to be achieved in this way. It's impossible for me to deny that obviously social engineering is still alive and well. And in every way, I'm just concerned about the ultimate misdirection of some of these conclusions is all I have to say.
I wanted to drive at a concept I was trying to get at earlier with the pipe bomber story, which I think kind of what I was driving at was a little bit more clear. But, I'm kind of, I don't know, I'm always open to see what she has to say. I mean, she did the fun little group chat trick, but and then people always go, oh, I think she's this, I think she's that. And I think it's maybe a whole lot more complicated. And that's kind of what I was driving at with the pipe bomber story. You see the confluence of actors and all the varying levels of different degrees of brightness of glow, and so you kind of put these together, and say with like a Candace or something. I don't know. I mean, maybe not quite to the extreme like a Kirk, who was literally basically born into this shit. Right. She was formed in this, and I don't know. Let's to some degree. I mean, you have this cognitive dissonance. You have these characters surrounding you. It's also like, as I was kind of driving with like the J6 pipe bomber. Say you have a clueless boomer who has kind of naive views, and then you get some sort of a former Fed that shows up in his periphery. It's like, let me tell you about some interesting information I have from you, and you get a little nudge this way or a nudge that way. And I could see a similar thing happening with One Each Candace, but I don't know. I mean, obviously, like when you get to certain levels, it gets a little bit less believable. But I mean, she's even said herself she's concerned there are people surrounding her. But I don't know. I mean, if I was one that got off on trying to control the world, and I was able to manipulate things, I could see there being individuals who are capable of pushing her buttons in just the right way. And I guess I don't mean this to be condescending, not that she watches this show or anything, but I could totally see her someone that you could easily emotionally manipulate or nudge ways that you want if you're in the right position. Although, who knows? Maybe she's in on it. You never know. I could also see her just being easy or that manipulatable, I guess, or manipulable, or whatever the word is.
I personally lean toward this kind of acting in bad faith with legitimate bad intentions, behind it, and kind of, yes, being orchestrated and positioned into place by these individuals behind her that surround her and kind of led her to this prominent position as well. But mainly, I think it's interesting to the point that you're making as far as just playing devil's advocate. Yeah, obviously, controlled opposition exists, but to what extent are they read in on the ultimate agenda that they are a part of facilitating? And are they actually ethically opposed to it? Or are they, clearly involved at this level of becoming some sort of mind manipulator, psychological warfare, engineer of some kind, right? Who is attempting to influence the general public in this underhanded way. And it's really up to
we call it mind war now, Austin. It's mind war.
Exactly. That's what I try to refer to it as more than ever. And I definitely believe this is a viable mind war project in modern day and in every way. And so to what extent is she a part of it? How much is she read in on the ultimate agenda, as I mentioned? It's up for the individual to kind of discern for themselves, right? And I will say I'm a little disillusioned by the political process, if that's not clear by now. So
I'd say an idea comes to mind. I was always a big soccer player, and defense was my position, and they always say, watch the ball, not the player. And I think that's kind of the concept. I think maybe we're driving a little bit here. I think, like, obviously, don't get me wrong, like, you play soccer and there's a dirty player. Like, to some degree, it's good to know the player. But at the end of the day, focus on the fucking ball. Look at the ball. Don't watch that fancy footwork, any of that faggot shit. Laser focus on that fucking ball. That ball is the info, the source, what is going on here? The shifting of the legs, that's the characters, moving and chucking and jiving or whatever. Don't worry about it. They're gonna pump fake. They're gonna whatever. Look at the ball. The ball's not gonna lie to you. It's going where it's going, and it is where it is. And just keep your eyes laser focused in on that ball, and don't worry about all that other shit. And don't get me wrong, like I said, if it is a dirty player, you're like, it is worth knowing. But in the day, the ball doesn't lie. You get down to the sources, the information. If you understand basic logic, you can kind of build upon that. And this is why you don't focus on people, you focus on ideas. And I mean, obviously, if you are now, we aren't retarded. You obviously are. We recognize patterns, and you do go, that guy glows, and I'm noticing a stronger glow day by day. But even glowy people do proper shit occasionally. So you can't. You gotta focus on the ball. Like someone who I think would be the glowiest of the glowiest levels who could do something that's proper or grounded in reality or telling the truth or be have legitimate stories or whatever. Say they're a journalist and they could be some sort of CIA apparatchik and they're still putting out good stories occasionally or whatever. Right. But it's like every now and then. That's why you keep your eye focused on the ball.
Absolutely, and I think we've kind of kept with that theme over the course of this show, honestly. And in past shows, I've just really attempted to prioritize discernment between the true power brokers and their political puppets. And I think, as always, that remains a sort of the North Star in terms of always trying to remain grounded in firm ethical, moral values and understanding your core values as well, but not going with the sort of ideological wherever the wind blows in a sort of way. And I think the Committee of 300 and the Pilgrim Society and the Anglo-American establishment are two of the best examples of these puppet masters and their power, these sort of power brokers that are orchestrating that very political theater, relying on the pageantry that they exploit and leverage for their own benefit. And this political theater is truly intended to occupy the minds of the indoctrinated cult members who are effectively worshiping the state at the end of the day. And so that is what full spectrum dominance truly is. And I think social engineers and culture creation has been a long-standing kind of playbook that has been recycled over time and become more and more evolved and sophisticated in every way as well. And so in no way do I look at any of the most prominent personalities that are receiving the spotlight in this very generous sort of, in my mind, manufactured sort of way, and receiving the algorithmic gold of some kind, which I don't think they're deliberately striking a chord that resonates with the vast majority of people. I think a lot of this is orchestrated. Not saying some of the personalities aren't convincing enough and even have some sort of charisma of some kind, but usually they do, obviously, because they want a certain character profile that they can rely on.
You don't have to pad my feelings, Austin. I know I've got the jungle fever, and I know it clouds my judgment.
Oh man, it's too much. It's too much. But I will say we can't forget to discuss the notion that Epstein and Jean-Luc Brunel were having this sort of dialogue, appearing to congratulate each other.
Jungle fever?
Upcoming... Oh. No, not on the jungle
That's
fever.
separate. They do that too, though.
They definitely do that too. But I will say this is very strange, and especially when he's talking about sending pictures of this Burmese girl who is she's pretty and she is the star singer in Myanmar, allegedly. Yeah. Right, which is just insane that any of this. He even says, "I will bring her to U.S. Obama visits Myanmar with and Chan comes to America." I think that
speaks volumes.
No shit. I mean, holy this guy is legitimately. This communication log shows that Epstein and Brunel are responding to these emails from Boris Nikolic. Or I believe is his name.
Yeah, that's right.
And this is a congratulation dialogue for Epstein on an upcoming birth of a child. So, yeah, how many times has that happened, and how often have we even referenced the notion of some of these prolific pedophiles having stables of children that are maybe unidentified in many ways, reminding me of Bonnie Blue claiming on that podcast that she was Jimmy Savile's daughter, which is the craziest thing I've ever heard, if you consider the idea that she's obviously this sexual promiscuous woman who's lined up 1,000 dudes or whatever, which is incredible, and so not far off from the notion that she could be some sort of spawn of Jimmy Savile, right? Mm. But still, the idea is not at all. I'm not above considering this, the plausibility, I will say, and just in terms of orchestrating these avenues to where you can have the easy access to these undocumented children, which I would say more often than not plays into this kind of sinister network, right? Where if you're talking child abuse and these private islands, how many children were seated in these stables of women who, right, that Jeffrey Epstein was essentially impregnating at the Zorro Ranch, and I mean, these are breeding experiments, man. We just talked about it in the Star Chamber, right?
Dude.
All
right, today, I'm not going to dig it up later. You guys go check out. You can even go to the timestamp, go to the Epstein coverage. It was my last segment of the show. You can just skip to the end of that segment. It was just kind of like the perfect little finishing touch here. At one point in time, the leading slave trader, I forget, something Levy, not the whatever, the one spooky Sabbatain guy, not that Levy, but some other Levy. He was at one point in time the largest slave trader, and he got kicked out of Spain. Do you know where he decided to pick up residence at?
Where?
The main island out of those multiple islands of the Little St. James. I think there's like three main islands. There's like a big St. James, a little St. James. He did the main one, and essentially, I think he basically kind of owned them all because they're basically all right next to. They're like a chain of islands. Moses Levi, and so I dropped that. I guess the guy came on a Jake Shields show to talk about it, and or I guess he at one point dropped that. So just think about that. The fact that those islands, the Virgin Islands, you've talked about the naming of that. That's weird before. These specific chains of islands that 2 miles away, the largest slave trader took up residence. The largest slave trader in the world who got kicked out of Spain took up residence, and that's where him and his family decided to live. And you're talking about breeding experiments and child trafficking and the like. And we're talking about these chain of islands that branch off of what was owned by the world's largest slave trader, and I believe it was like the 1600s. What's up, Shai? Glad to have you on the show.
What's up, buddy?
What do you think about that?
That connection with the Virgin Islands had me thinking. I was thinking that's crazy.
Yeah,
right.
Like what
No
are
kidding,
they?
buddy.
The Virgin Mary Islands, like.
Well, and Peter Nygaard, followed the very same playbook as far as setting up shop in that very same way. So you would have to imagine this is a longstanding sort of technique that they are leveraging for their benefit in this way, as far as the enterprise itself is concerned. But
Shit, you
go
got
ahead, bud.
Island of Lesbo, and then remember Caligula was brought up on like some crazy island where he was just saw all types of wild shit. That's why he turned out the way he turned out.
Man, I honestly, at this point, I legitimately don't feel there's any real distinction between that of let's say the Finders and the Odyssey Foundation, right? I see no difference. I think it's the geographical component that makes the only separation in terms of the name of the network. But in reality, they all factor into this fundamental pedophile underworld that is being very much facilitated by the intelligence apparatus and organized crime and these occult organizations. It's impossible to deny at this point, man.
I mean, that's what we've been doing this whole episode, just doing that little move like in sex. We just kind of move it around just for like an hour. That's what we're doing. Like, we're just right around that nexus of like whatever the hell, like we talk about that 9/11, that weird, kind of that weird loop. We're just dancing around that dark hole there. That's what we're doing. So
And it seems like no one talks about all the Catholic priests anymore and shit.
Man, that's interesting as well.
Right now, Candace won't talk bad about the Catholic priests, which I'm sure about that. I see this as like, in my view, which may be shot out, but I'm fully firm in my thinking. Like, this is like a Holy Roman Empire versus the Ottoman Empire shit. Like, never ended. It's still going. Like,
well, did you? I'm assuming I think maybe me and you talked about Austin. Did you see? I mean, have you guys seen the some of the weird, odd framing on Rome and coming from Netanyahu and kind of how Rome had beat them in the past and how they have to prepare to win the rematch. And you go dig it. Just go search Rome Netanyahu Twitter. He's been kind of going off about that a little bit there. Like, I mean, it's very subtle. You kind of got to be a little schizo to read into it, but when you you're like,
they're staging an international global conflict, in my opinion, and that will be the ultimate consequence.
The spirit of David is overtaking them.
A thing together, but they're still like, Vine, who's going to control it? And there's there's major factions, but then you also have the little factions that are trying to.
Absolutely. That's why you see coup d'etats and regime change operations, right? That's the name of the game as far as implementing your own, installing your own puppet for that purpose, and also leveraging that very nation state to your own kind of exploitation in terms of every single layer of their society. Usually is on the table, but I find it very, very interesting that apparently within the context of Jeffrey Epstein. Remember, privately, I had mentioned the fact that there was this historian, this British historian that went public claiming that he could confirm the fact that Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself, right? And basically this was due to the fact that he had accessed internal FBI documents, which confirmed that fact, and also confirmed the fact that Epstein had some sort of motivation that he wanted Prince Andrew to be assassinated leading up to his death, because he was concerned that apparently Prince Andrew was behind ordering his execution to some extent. And that was due to the various connections that Epstein could apparently, corroborate in terms of Prince Andrew's involvement, and understanding that he becomes the Mountbatten, obviously, just recently.
Assassinated, definitely.
Oh yeah, it makes sense to me. And this is historian Andrew Lowney is his name, right? And it looks like this individual, he told the Daily Beast podcast, is who he had this conversation with, that he saw these internal FBI correspondence that stated that another inmate murdered Jeffrey Epstein. So that in itself, it caught my eye, obviously, but it only gets, far more convoluted and very strange within the context of what he is claiming is the case here. And also seems like at times he's potentially speculating a little bit when he's not necessarily firmly entrenched in these kind of just as far as like reinforcing evidence of any kind. It's more about speculating after making a reference to something that he saw that obviously none of us have any access to. So I guess take that for what it is. But yeah, he gave the name of this prisoner allegedly who murdered Epstein, but hadn't shared this name publicly due to, quote, liability considerations. He added that they're calling the Don Cyrus the Great. They ain't hiding it. That's hilarious. Yeah, man. Donald Trump got the shekel, right? There's no way they're not playing into this as far as a manufactured false prophecy, which is what I've been calling it from day one. I think it's the ultimate really kind of sinister strategy of blending together religion and politics in this way. And I think it's due to the fact that religion is even far more as in terms of ideological capture, as far as people not being able to really think outside their own institutional box in that sort of way. And I'm even referring to just reading other religious texts and other doctrines that exist, right? That just to have some sort of parallel that you can draw and try to compare the two and understand these texts for what they are in a certain way. Not at all dismissing the value to any extent. I'm just saying that people find themselves kind of imprisoned in this context and can't quite seem to break out in a way to objectively pursue this information at any real level. So you can rely on kind of masking yourself within the context of their religious fervor and saying that I am one of you and therefore you must follow suit. And that has been the name of the game in terms of the Christian, the diabolical evangelical influence that has been a propagandistic tool for generations as well, which is why so many, unfortunately, so many Western Christians and, American Christians have legitimately supported this conflict in Gaza because they view the modern state of Israel as a beacon of almost a representation of God in itself. Right. And if you do not defend the Jewish people, then you are therefore betraying God. This is a legitimate notion within the conceptual minds of some Christians who unfortunately are being manipulated. That's my point.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's a stupid worldview.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
But divine prophecy in terms of kind of at least labeling a genocide. Right. this is in many ways in their minds, this is divine prophecy playing out, and there's no way around it. So if a man is implementing the vision of the the prophecy itself, then how could it be false? Because in reality, man is just a reflection of God. And I find that to be a low frequency interpretation of very serious psychological manipulation,
Well, all right. I think it's time to move on to our next caller, Shy. We appreciate you joining the show. Any last thoughts you have for us before you let go? Otherwise, we're going to be bringing on Nate. Haven't seen him on and they're bringing on a new patron. But Shy, appreciate you joining us. Any thoughts you got before you let you go, bud?
See you guys next time.
We'll see you, bud. We'll see you in the after show. We'll shoot the shit with you there. Let's bring Nate in here and get to it. This will be the last call. Let me hang out maybe about 10 minutes or so, and we'll get the fuck out of here. What's up, Nate? You cool by going Nate, Nathaniel? What's up?
What's up, buddy?
You guys can hear me good?
Yeah, we can hear you just fine. Man. You hear us?
I can hear you guys great.
Awesome.
What's up, dude? Nate or Nathaniel?
Nate.
All right, cool. What's up, man?
I just wanted to say that Austin's Columbine thing was so fucking awesome.
Thanks, buddy.
And I went back, and the Detroit thing was insane. And I'm in my mail truck right now. If you can see it. I listened to it all day. And then Jose, your Sandy Hook, I saw 4 parts, and that was fucking insane.
Yeah, that dude's in jail now. Yeah, he killed a motherfucker.
What dude?
Jolly Klebold. He used to be. He was our former Jacob.
Oh, the guy that was on every episode.
Yeah.
What the fuck did he do?
He killed a guy. Yeah.
What?
I mean, it's not funny. I mean, it's actually a pretty sad story. But yeah, he actually it was some crazy. We didn't know, but I don't really know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I didn't know a ton about the guy, but in my understanding, yeah, he had some crazy situation where, supposedly according to him, out of self-defense, he ended up killing a guy, and then I don't know. I'm not in this guy's life. He could have killed him in cold blood.
He spent 7 or 8 hours with him.
Yeah, it's been a long time with him, and he spit some hard facts, but he got convicted for murder. So
I got nothing but love for old Tim.
I do love him. Free my nigga, dude.
Yeah. Exactly.
That makes that
unironically. But go on. Hey, you can't unkill the dude, so I want my homie back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you changed your mind since last year? What was that? 2 years ago or last year?
Who's that? Me on Sandy? Yeah. On which one? On Sandy Hook?
Sandy Hook.
I don't know. It's not one I've really thought crazy deep on, but man, I guess it depends on what you mean. Do I think if you say change your mind, and that if the questioning here is if it's a full on exercise and it was all fake and maybe they threw in some bodies and it was all crisis actors. I don't know. I'm open to it. I don't think it's or would be ridiculous, but I do kind of lean towards I think something happened, but obviously it's not exactly what they say it was. That's kind of where I'm at. But I don't know if I completely buy into it's completely contrived, fucking actor parents, military exercise gone live or whatever. I don't know.
It's hard not to address just the Robbie Parker. Obviously, he was always the individual that I viewed as a direct representation of a crisis actor, acting as one of the parents. I definitely view it as those children were strategically used in a sort of modern Gladio operation that was greenlit in this sort of way. But I don't think that Sandy Hook was even a functioning elementary school at the time leading up to the shooting taking place. Yeah. So I believe it was a legitimate staged operation. And now, did anyone die? We'll wait until I do my deep dive one day on Sandy Hook, because it is coming. It's on the short list.
I was just going to ask you if you had one on that.
Not yet, but there's a reason. I wanted to cover Columbine before I covered Sandy Hook, because I felt like, although I went out of order with James Holmes and things like that,
you gotta build your credibility before you come in with the Leroy Jenkins. It's all fucking fake. The parents are lying. I have the documents.
that is legitimately the taboo kind of third rail that you're not right. That obviously was intended to be that in many ways. I feel like, and that is what the show trial that was Alex Jones' kind of humiliation ritual. Yeah, it was a humiliation ritual, and to force him to essentially bend the knee, and in every way, I refuse to essentially, conduct myself in that sort of way and fall into line. So I think without a doubt, when you see Robbie Parker sitting there before he realizes the cameras are on and he's about to make his public presentation just after the death of his child, and he goes and he gets himself into character as if he were just crying, although he was just laughing during the course of a conversation with an individual off to the side. Very difficult.
Didn't Novia? I know this is a deep cut for those who haven't dug into it, but you might recollect this, Austin. Didn't Novia get busted for like some sort of kitty shit later or something, like way after the fact, or is that? I know there was somebody connected to the whole Lanza situation. I think it might have been a couple people. I actually think a priest at a church that I used to go to got busted for that. I think there was also like some weird pedophile thing going on nearby that it's like that doesn't necessarily mean he was getting fucked, but like I don't know. After there was another thing, so you get enough of them add together, and you're like, I think this kid might be getting fucked. He's
the same. He's the individual. Adam Lanza is the one who referred to his therapist as the mind rapist, just as James Holmes did.
Yep.
And I believe he was raped by his psychiatrist. And it does feel as if there was some sort of trauma-based mind control implementation of some kind to a certain extent, possibly. Either way, I definitely believe Eric Harris was raped by Sheriff's Deputy Tim Walsh, and there was evidence of this that was never made public, and there was a video allegedly put into evidence internally within the Jefferson County Police Department, and it had a video with the title Walsh Butt Rape. And in every way, I believe that was the individual who was he was responding to every single call for a juvenile dispute that was being called into the authorities by, let's say, Brooks Brown's parents, who was a friend of Eric Harris, who allegedly had a dispute and falling out with Eric Harris before the shooting took place, and then somehow, they had, I guess, squashed this sort of dispute in a way. To the point to even when Brooks Brown was smoking a cigarette outside the school, when Eric Harris was kind of gearing up, he arrived at the school and he looked at Brooks, and Brooks is giving him shit because he missed an exam, and he was allegedly a good student, and that was out of character. And he looked at Brooks and he said, "I like you now, Brooks. You need to get out of here," essentially, right? But I will say that it's very clear to me that there was some sort of sexual trauma that was endured. And even you could imagine a selfish, let's say maybe even exploitation of negotiating, let's say, I will provide you with a chemical substance like methamphetamine if you have homosexual encounters with me as a sheriff's deputy, and don't blow the whistle in some sort of way. You never know, especially if there are some kind of homosexual inclinations due to prior abuse from when you were a child. And if that legitimately occurred and he was sexually traumatized by a psychiatrist in the 18 subterranean level bunker underneath Plattsburgh Air Force Base, then why would he not be open to the notion of, if I can somehow benefit from this interaction and engagement, then I'll negotiate my way through it.
Mm-hmm.
Possible.
Austin, real quick, the personal story here in the chat saying James Holmes is tied to Sandy Hook. I can't remember what it is now. Is that the Libor one? I always conflate like Columbine and Sandy Hook. There's a few different shootings I always like accidentally conflate. So I accidentally like mix up the details. So I couldn't remember if it was. I knew James Holmes was connected to either Columbine or Sandy Hook, but go ahead.
Yeah. So basically the connection comes in the form of the Libor scandal. And it was, the rigging of the international finance rate, which clearly, this is this affects all banks globally in terms of who is a part of the Libor financial system at that time. And they were both set to testify. Essentially, it was Robert Holmes, who was the father of James Holmes and had a background working for DARPA and military intelligence as well. So did his grandfather, who was trained at the Monterey Language Institute, the same place that Lee Harvey Oswald was taught to speak fluent Russian as if it was his natural dialect, which is amazing. And also consider the notion, what if you are, let's say, a victim of mind control experimentation, and through the layers of programming, they install this ability to legitimately be able to speak fluent Russian to that extent? It's possible. I was just kind of considering that outcome. But the grandfather was effectively trained.
I got a question before I forget.
Go ahead, buddy.
Was it the sheriff that raped?
It was Sheriff's Deputy Tim Walsh. Yeah, that was it. As far as with Eric Harris. But yeah, as far as
Tim Walsh.
Yeah, that's him.
Okay.
And what's interesting is that between the fathers there, both set to testify in the upcoming trial in 2012, just before the tragic outcome of their children engaging in mass shootings at within 2 months' time, I believe was the distance between the two events, if I can remember. But still, so it's Robert Holmes and Peter Lanza, the father of Adam Lanza, and obviously neither of them ultimately testified during this trial, and it was effectively covered up in many ways, and only low level brokers, like a handful, actually dealt with legal consequences. But yeah, if you can chop that up to a grand coincidence, then I don't trust you. That's basically how I feel. But before we wrap up, I wanted to finish that point though on Prince Andrew, right? As far as with Epstein, because this,
I guess, real quick before you go on that, Austin, I guess we should probably let Nathaniel go unless he has something else he wants to add. We can finish off on this Epstein Andrew point, or maybe it wasn't Epstein, maybe it was something else. I forget, but a Prince Andrew thing. But Nate, pleasure having you on. It was we were cooking with fire there. Definitely call in again. Would love to talk to you some more. You definitely spurred on some ideas. But Nate, any final thoughts? And I definitely would recommend calling in again. I enjoyed talking to you.
Is it every Tuesday at this time?
Yeah, yes, boy. Sir.
I'll be on again. I listen to you guys a lot. I appreciate you guys letting me on.
Oh, awesome, yeah, no problem. Man. We love having people like you.
I can't thank you enough for the kind words as well, brother. I appreciate it.
I got more questions for you guys, so I'll be calling in next week.
Please do, man. By all means.
All right. And hopefully we get more calls like that in the future. I really enjoyed that. More fresh people. And you don't have to be a patron like Nate is. I mean, he gets that perk to the video thing, but you can just call in for free. Use the old digits. But Austin, I'm kind of interested. I've done a little bit of digging into the Prince Andrew thing, and it sounds like you got some little factoid from a British historian, which if it's who I think he is, he's kind of a little bit of a respectability kind of kind of guy. He's known for being touched. So like the fact that he's running with this, and it's kind of wild. And I think there was other things he said recently that seems like he's kind of mentioning things that didn't get included in the book entirely. He's kind of making mention of them, and these are things that are like, hey, the legal wouldn't let me run with this. So
exactly. And that's the point he's trying to make, is that it was essentially due to the fact that he couldn't name names based on the legal implications is the issue he's facing. Although he claims to have privately done so, which is very interesting as well. So clearly he feels confident enough to kind of come out publicly with saying something such as that. But still, we have the recent Andrew Mountbatten Windsor connection here with his demotion, I guess you could look at it as, in terms of the aristocracy of the British royal family in a certain way. But it could have been much worse in terms of Prince Andrew, as far as the ultimate consequences there. But either way, this, as you mentioned, this was in a book called said that source. I believe it's entitled. I don't remember what the name of the book is, but I think that's the name.
It's a Prince Andrew one, right? Because it's
Yeah.
the one he's dropping recently. So it's focused on Prince Andrew, so it's a little bit weird for us, stateside people. But there's a lot of stuff in there, and it seems like part of why the impression I've got, some of the stuff that's gotten pulled out was kind of like, also like, let's be real, if you're writing an expose on Prince Andrew as someone living in the UK, and you're dealing with possible legal issues for secondary characters to your book, I mean, I can't really blame you too much for being like, this isn't worth the hassle of like, well, then just don't put that bit in there.
Exactly.
But it seems to be a lot of stuff surrounding Trump and Epstein that has been forced out. Surprisingly, not so much. A lot of the stuff for Andrew, it seems like actually was able to get in. I mean, there's some stuff that wasn't, but
and I wonder
crazy.
if that's due to this sort of kind of reputational outcome in terms of the consequences that he's enduring at this moment due to the relationship with Epstein. I think it's only natural that he's really. I would say there's probably not much pushback in terms of the royal family putting their credibility at risk, because it obviously seems as if they've hung him out to dry in a certain way, just in terms of public perception alone, implicating this more sinister relationship with that of the other members of the royal aristocracy, which clearly they would want to distance themselves from that. But according to him, as far as this historian, Epstein had plotted to hire a hitman to assassinate then Prince Andrew in the weeks before his death. Now, this is, according to the historian, two people who were close to Epstein, quote, one in Paris and one in Palm Beach, said Epstein had grown paranoid that Andrew and his ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson, would leak incriminating information about him. So he says, I think he was getting very nervous. He said he thought particularly Sarah Ferguson might spill the beans on him, and this was a precautionary measure as far as him allegedly hiring this hitman. So, detailing the claim, Lowney explains that one of the sources told him that Epstein had been in talks with a notorious UK sniper for hire. And if Jeffrey hadn't died, Andrew and Fergie would have been murdered. This is what a former friend of Epstein told the historian Lowney. Quote,
same hitter that got Kirk and is coming after Candace now.
Yeah, right, probably. But he says, quote, they knew too much about his sex trafficking ring. Now, I think that's a little bit too much of an oversimplification, obviously, in terms of incriminating details.
Dude,
but,
Andrew knew. I mean, the shit we were alluding to, I mean, that would totally make sense. Like, I don't know what's going on all those islands, but it totally makes sense that, like, I could even buy the Epstein Island was probably maybe more of the respectable, forward-facing version of what maybe other things there. I wouldn't be surprised if there are other islands or whatever that they were even doing darker stuff. And let's be real, we were talking about that slave trader connection, and, like, I don't know, just extrapolate out from that and then think about, I don't know, Prince Andrew being a literal fucking prince and, royalty. And I don't know, he is exactly the person that would know about the breeding experiment and then their sex slave island or whatever the hell is going on there.
Just the Lord Mountbatten connection is too much in terms of Kinkora, as far as dismissing the reality that
Which
they are
was his uncle,
involved.
right? Wasn't that his uncle?
Yeah,
I fuck up the
absolutely.
relation. So that was his uncle who was like crazy shit with the brother of the king, I believe, if I recall correctly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so
And
like
no way were the other individuals among the aristocracy.
wait, no, the father of the king, the uncle of the king, my bad. And then
Right.
Prince Andrew is the brother of the king, my bad.
Exactly. But the final point, though, that this historian makes that I thought was pretty kind of incendiary as far as the claim was that Epstein had become convinced that the British royal family was planning to assassinate him. So it does seem as if there were potentially perpetrators that maybe we wouldn't prioritize as far as in our mind's eye, considering as the likely individuals who greenlit his assassination. Maybe they're not exactly the people that we expect, right? But I would imagine that they were somehow read in on the ultimate, sort of agenda playing out in terms of silencing and eradicating this very, let's just say, obvious kind of thorn in the side of the political establishment in this current moment. As far as the power brokers are concerned, they're all in league with the Epstein network. So you'd have to imagine each and every one of them would be perfectly on board for this, ultimate consequence to play out without any kind of hold up or disruption of any kind. So worth mentioning, I felt,
Oh, I agree.
Main point.
Yeah, I think it's interesting and kind of refreshing. We're in a weird time. It's when people say like, what was it? Was it Armageddon? Isn't it? Or the apocalypse? I think is the one. Was it just like a revelation? I forget which word.
Modern Babylon is my favorite these days.
Well, they say it's like what, like it means revelation or means like a new beginning or something like that.
Age of Aquarius, Jose.
Yeah, an Age of Aquarius. That's what
rising from the ashes like a phoenix, baby.
Well, like all is being revealed and new paradigms are being exposed. And we're here to help you along that path every Tuesday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Obviously, I have my daily show. Austin has does his deep dives. Maybe you got your daily fix for my daily show. You got your weekly fix with Already Dead, and you got your I don't know, once every 4 months fix or something like that with us.
You bastard.
But it's a fucking banger, and it's like 12 hours long, so it's worth it. It's like top level edging. So
appreciate it, bro.
But but with that, Austin, let people know where they can find you at. We'll do this again next week, and I think we have another some point another Dutro episode that should be dropping. There's one still behind the paywall, so we'll have to schedule another one. So yeah, we're on part 6, and I don't think we've even gotten to. No, we haven't. We haven't gotten to the typical spot where people start, and this is if they're starting early with the Dutro series. That's where we're or with the Dutro coverage. Like anytime someone does their standard Dutro coverage, we're starting where like some of the more respectable people. We haven't even gotten to the spot where like people who do a thorough job typically start at. That's where we're at. And we're at part 6.
I've learned so much throughout the process, if I'm being honest, just in terms of things that I didn't cover in my own episode. And this giving me kind of the opportunity and the excuse to go back in this thorough way and kind of expose myself to more of the details that would hopefully paint a picture for how this network could have been very well established and organized in this way, and be so entrenched within the machinations of power within these geographical areas. It's just fascinating. So anyway, I love you, buddy. And every time we do this show, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you, man. And you sort of we've discussed this privately so many times, but I don't think people realize how much you benefit me in a way, as far as your attempt to kind of bring me back into a more constructive line of thought at times. But I can't thank you enough, man, and I love you more than you realize. So everybody, you can check out the Underclass podcast, the best place to find me. Hopefully, I'll be scheduling a couple of interviews that I've been trying to basically follow through on, in terms of doing an underclass interview occasionally here in the next couple of weeks. We'll hopefully do 1 or 2 of those, but beyond that, subscribe to the Patreon if you have the means to, and obviously that's how you can come on here as a talking head or access the private paywalled show, whatever this is. So nothing but love from me to you, and I appreciate all of you. So
hell yeah, brother. Well, I appreciate you very much. It goes both ways. I know people tease us for the things, the different things. I definitely don't have the depth of knowledge you have, but there is also something that you get from like a lower level and kind of throwing shows together. So, we complete each other. So I think it's good. The Schizo Bros. And then we got, now we have Jacob kind of rounding out our little menage a trois to kind of fill in the last little bits there with some tech knowledge, because me and you are a little bit tech tards. But for those who want to support what I'm doing, and do the same thing to Austin too, support it. Boost it on both ends. But be sure to leave a like, share, subscribe, comment, leave a 5-star review on iTunes or Spotify. You can find the show on YouTube, Rumble, all the audio podcasts. You can find it on Twitter as well, at TowerGangJose. And if you want to support this show in the best way you can do that with money over at patreon.com/NoWayJose2020. The lowest level is $2. That's where you get access to early episodes. You get access to ad-free RSS feed. You get access to Telegram. You get access to the pre-show, the post-show, and video calls on me and Austin's weekly live call-in show, Already Dead, that you're watching right now. And also I give a big shout out to my sponsors, which is the highest level of my Patreon. Every episode is a big thank you for everything they do. My previous co-host on Tower Gang, at Learned Toad, also at Abrogate D's, at ZOVRCK, at _Infinite Zeal, Tim Tuttle, at Jolly and Klebold, big fan of the show, Torme, at Wayne Taculus, 1-800-CAR for Kids, No Free Lunch, Jack, Mark Vestibule, and Jacob Winograd of the Biblical Integrate Podcast. I appreciate you guys' support, and with that, guys, we'll catch you in the post show if you're not a poor, and we'll hang out with y'all. We love y'all. We'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.